Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the program started. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is I'm Director of Special Projects for Maxine Waters. Thank you so much for fighting off the rain and joining us this morning. With the attacks on our democracy, our Constitution, and our rights, we thought it would be appropriate to remind everyone that brave men and women have fought and died for these rights. We have one of those brave women who is from this community here today to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and remind us of how precious our democracy is. Star Manning is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. She is currently the Senior Vice Commander of the PFC Adrian L. Mitchell All-American VFW Post 2122 here in Inglewood. She was also selected by the LA County Board of Supervisors as the Los Angeles County Woman of the Year last year for her extensive volunteer work in helping to address the city's housing crisis. Please welcome Commander Star Manning.
Good morning. We will now do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Face the flag. Put your right hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. How y'all doing? I see a few familiar faces. Hi. Hey everybody. I am Star Manning, a hometown girl, just like you. I went to local schools in the community. I went to Angela Space Elementary. I went to Horseman Junior High School. And I went to Crenshaw High School. Don't get mad at me. And at Crenshaw High School, I was introduced to a program that some of y'all may have heard of called the Junior ROTC. Thank you, ma'am. All right, I gotta believe her in there. I wasn't quite ready for college. No one in my family ever went to college. But I did have one brother that went into the military. He went to the United States Air Force. And I did want to follow his footsteps because I knew if I did that for the rest of my life, he would be saying, hey, you were trying to be like me. So I chose to go to the United States Marine Corps. email me a lot, too much. I know I don't have much time, but I'm so grateful to all of you for being here, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and everyone. But I just have a few things on my mind. I had a few things on my mind that I'd like to share. And like most of us, when you're running out the house or you're sleeping and something just kind of pops up and you can't find a piece of paper, where do you put your grocery bills or notes and stuff on the back of what? A piece of mail. So can I share my piece of mail with you today? And the funny part about that is I was an 0161 postal clerk in the military. Yeah, so we stand and deliver. Through the rain, through the sleet, through the snow, we deliver. And like every veteran, and anyone that loves a veteran, veterans what? We deliver. It don't take, amen, brother. All right, say it again. All right, we gonna deliver. So some things that I have been thinking about, and a couple of my friends have been talking about things that are worrying us with the current administration. Number one, when our speakers, our guests come here to talk, we already know what tenfold. I don't need it, but thank you, brother. All right. Some of the things that worry us, well, what we like is when we come to these town halls or any type of meeting, I don't want to hear whether you like him or not. We already know that. Don't waste your time telling me how bad he is and all this, that, and the third. I want to hear about results, and I want to hear about my next marching orders and where I need to be and what I need to do. That's what I want to hear. Because everybody in your chain of command have worked with somebody like a President Donald J. Trump. Somebody dealing with it right now. Somebody said yesterday, if this person comes up in my face, I'm gonna lose my job and Jesus in the process. But I'm glad you didn't do that. So with that, some things that are on my mind as a veteran. Let me get to my mail. We're concerned about transition assistance. All right, a lot of the breakdown is we're coming back and there's really not enough. So when you cut the funding, what counselors are we going to talk to? Even someone that is getting out of a jail or prison system gets a probation officer. They have mandatory classes and substance abuse classes that they have to go to. Why can't we get that? We need it. So when we cut that, I have no counselor to talk to. Most of us, when we get out, we're not officers. Most black and brown people, we are E6 and below. That means we don't get that much money. I shouldn't have to choose between disability or my benefit. I need both. I want to work with individuals. I want to understand that. Respectfully. I'm not mad. I'm just being a little more vocal so you can hear me, so you can feel me. All right? Moving forward. Lord have mercy. Only got like 1 more minute. I know. Woo. I know. Tenfold. I get it. Let me get here. Cutting our funding. It scares me that we don't have a full military force to respond. A lot of these bases are getting just cut and cut and cut. So who's going to defend America when the balloon goes up? And I don't know about you, if you've been watching the news, it's a lot going on. And if that balloon goes up, I don't know about you, but do you want a strong military? Yes. Do you want a psychologically safe military? Yes. You keep cutting back on the budget and you ain't gonna get that. Cheap work isn't skilled and skilled work isn't cheap. It's an investment and we're cutting back on that. That's what I fear. A VSO, anybody know what a VSO is? Yes. Veteran Service Officer. I haven't seen many of those in our community since before COVID. When you cut back that funding, you're cutting back that. Longer waits in our emergency room. It was hard enough to get seen as a veteran. Veterans are dying while waiting, and I'm going to wrap it up because thank you very much. But we need all of those benefits. I'm about working with anyone across the aisle. And last but not least, and I'm done, the president said something about black jobs. Well, let's call them out on it. Let's call it a bluff. Let's reach across the aisles. And people that I vote for, I expect you to reach across the aisles and say, hey, I know you may not think, but you said it. We're going to stick you to it. We want an outline. We want to work with anybody to get that going on in our community for those jobs for all of us. So with that very much for the tap. Amen. Praise Jesus. I just love it here. I love you all. Again, my name is Darlene. I'm in construction. If you know anyone that's looking for jobs in construction or some kind of secondary assistance, please, I'll be in the audience just like you. Please look at me to the rear. This Memorial Day, we will be having our Memorial Day celebration, as well as at the end of this year, the VFW Post will be giving away 1,000 Christmas trees to the community, veterans, and their family members. Praise Jesus, amen, and continue to fight. No justice, no peace.
Next, we would like to introduce our host for today here at Inglewood High School. He is the principal, Dr. Lamar Collins.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this dreary morning. I'm Dr. Collins, proud principal of the Inglewood High School. And I'm here this morning to introduce a leader that really needs no introduction, but just in case you didn't know, she has been the U.S. representative for the 43rd Congressional District of California since 1991, which makes her the most experienced black woman in Congress. She is also the second longest tenured member of the California Congressional Delegate. She is a fearless advocate for social justice, equity, and access for all. And I don't know if the word fearless is an adequate description, but nonetheless, she's never been one to shy away from controversial issues, but addresses them with a tenacity and a fire that few can match. A staunch supporter of the military, which I appreciate that as a 14-year veteran, and she is an overall champion for the underdogs. A powerhouse of a person and a living legend in her own right. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand to your feet in appreciation of my U.S. representative and yours, Congresswoman Auntie Maxine Waters.
We're going to put it together again, and we'll do another town hall. But we're determined that we're going to make sure that we get the information to you about what is going on in Washington, D.C. I know you understand how chaotic it is and what the President of the United States is doing and what the members of Congress are doing and what the co-president, Elon Musk, is doing. And so, good morning to everyone. As a top Democrat on the House Financial Services Committee, I've been raising the alarm in the halls of Congress and right back here in LA about the disastrous impact of Donald Trump and co-president Elon Musk's policy. We were warned this would happen. Republicans told us exactly what they would do. Who here remembers when we started to talk about Project 2025? Last year, Trump did not know anything about Project 2025. The radical right-wing plan to reshape the federal government. Project 2025, this is what Trump said, and I quote, "I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But now, Trump, Elon Musk, and his appointees are following the Project 2025 playbook. They had it out, they put it in our faces. We didn't know what they were talking about. We didn't believe some of what we were reading. but now we know that they're carrying it out. They are recklessly gutting federal agencies and government capacity. Elon Musk has said the government should privatize everything that they possibly can. You know what he's talking about? Monetizing, privatizing, big corporations taking over functions of government and making billions of dollars. Billionaires are taking over our government for the benefit of themselves and their friends, eliminating law enforcement, investigations, and oversight. And I'm here today to talk to you about the impact this coup, and that's what it is, ladies and gentlemen, it's a coup. Because that's exactly what they're doing. We have on the programs and services that our communities rely on. Coup. So, an especially important agency that Trump and Musk are dismantling is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But I think, staff people, I want to introduce this panel before I go into all of what I'm going to talk about. Can you get me that information right away? Because I want you to know who has come here to visit with you today, where they come from, what they know, and I want you to go away knowing whom they are. All right. All right, to talk with us today about something you're very familiar with, Medicaid, Martha Santana Chin. Sure, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. And then we have, for housing, we have Chancellor Al Mansour, Housing Rights Center. Please raise your hand. Social Security. I want you to meet this man, John Bauman. Please raise your hand, John Bauman. CFPB, Marissa Rosenblatt. Raise your hand. For education, we have aid, and I think the correct pronunciation is Ingesai. Is that right? Almost? All right, thank you very much. And then for USPS, Dominic Davis, the president of APWU, Local 64. And of course, Larry Brown, president of NALC 24. Raise your hand, Larry. And Joyce Denning. Joyce, raise your hand. Thank you. Now, I'd like you to give them a big round of applause just for being here. Thank you, Carol, for coming out for the rain, and many of you on short notice. And for those of you, this is your second panel, thank you so very much for coming to this overall community, the 43rd Congressional District, to help us get the word out and the truth about what's happening. Give them another round. Okay, I'm going to start with something called the CFPB. The CFPB is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this is something that was created when we did the Dodd-Frank reforms. Because before this, people didn't really have a place that they could go and complain about fraud and ripoffs and executive fees and all kinds of things that were literally taking the money from your pockets. And so we created this. The Republicans have been trying to kill it. Ever since that we created it, we've been all the way to the Supreme Court to save it, but they're after it again. Well, Congress created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, again, after the 2008 global financial crisis, when millions of families received, remember the predatory loans where people lost their homes? When we saw what was going on, we created this agency to stop that kind of thing from happening. The CFPB is the only federal agency solely focused on protecting consumers from being ripped off, scammed, and defrauded by mega banks, payday lenders, and other predatory lenders. The CFPB has cracked down on junk fees, including overdraft and credit card fees. And I know some of you are experiencing all of this stuff in your daily lives. It protects service members from illegal fees, high interest loans, and false advertising. It stops discrimination in housing and the United States economy, and it protects service members, students, and older Americans from high-tech payment scams. The CFPB has returned more than $21 billion to more than 205 million consumers that have been harmed by industry. In February, I led 203 Democrats in an amicus brief to support National Security Employees Union by calling on the court to stop the illegal Trump Musk shutdown of CFPB. The amicus brief is simply what we in Congress are doing. When an organization or a union or a group of people get together and they file a lawsuit, then we follow up what is known as an amicus brief to support them. And what we do is we take everything that we know about the law and legislation and let the courts know that this lawsuit is a good lawsuit, and we want them to rule favorably in support of what the lawsuit is trying to do. So your members of Congress, on the Democratic side at least, we file these amicus briefs and we give the courts all of the information that we can put together. And I want you to know this is very important, because these are temporary decisions right now that the courts are making. Every time there's a lawsuit against what Trump is doing with some of our agencies. But it's very important for them in making the temporary decision to try and keep government going as it should be, as it was intended. And so, even though the decisions are temporary, they have been pretty good in coming up with the temporary decisions to try and keep the government going while it is being destroyed by Trump and Elon Musk. And so we're going to hear more about this, and hopefully when the courts see us rallying and protesting and holding town halls, this helps them to make a decision. So that's why the town halls are important and the protests are important. In March, the District of Columbia District Judge ruled in favor of the CFPB employees and cited our amicus brief multiple times. This was a major victory at the time, even though the Trump administration has not given up trying to shut down the agency. The Trump team tried again, issuing reduction in force notices, or what they known as RIFs, to about 1,500 of the 1,700 CFPB employees, saying they'd lose their job after 60 days. Even after the court made a temporary decision, they went in to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and told them and gave them notices that they had to be out of there within 60 days. But the judge came back again and blocked them until she can have a real hearing on the matter, which will be April 28th, to explore if these RIFs violate their first preliminary injunction. The Trump administration will do all they can to bear down and tear down the CFPB. But we will continue to stand up for consumers and fight back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a real fight. This is not something where, oh, they're going to go and they're going to negotiate. The Democrats and Republicans, they'll fix things, they'll make things right. This coup is about stopping, killing, and doing away with agencies that they don't want Number one, to have employees that we have to pay to do the work because they want to save all the money that they can so that the richest people in the country pay less taxes. And that's why the billionaires are in on this. They don't want to pay all of the taxes that they should be paying. And the way that Trump and Elon Musk sees it is the less we have to pay employees, the more breaks the billionaires will get. And if you don't believe me, watch what was happening during the inauguration. All of a sudden, the billionaires showed up with him when he was getting sworn in because this is their plan. All right. So, as ranking member of the House Financial Services Committee, I'm leading the Democrats in fighting to protect the CFPB. I've sent 7 letters to investigate aspects of the illegal CFPB shutdown, and I'm sounding the alarm during committee hearings. I introduced a resolution of inquiry in the House demanding that the President provide Congress with information about how Elon Musk and his Doge minions have gained access to sensitive consumer and business data, as well as their plans to shut down the agency. The House Financial Services Committee will likely consider the resolution in about 2 weeks. We didn't stop there. I also led Democratic opposition in the House to 2 resolutions that will rescind 2 important CFPB rules limiting bank overdraft fees and protecting consumers from being scammed by the big tech payment companies. Now, this is the work that's going on now that we can still do. And I'm trying to say to the bank with this resolution that the Republicans voted against, enough of these high fees when you're a little late. Enough of these high fees for different kinds of services. We wanted to limit those high fees when you're a little late on the mortgage to about $5. And they want to charge you as much as they can, and some charge you $30 and $40 in high fees when you're a little late with your mortgage. We're working on that in the middle while all this is going on. I had it on the floor, and the Republicans voted against it. And so, I wanted to take time to tell you about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because we plan on, in this fight, taking this Congress back, and I want you to use it. I want you to use it. I want you to call when your banks are doing you wrong. I want you to call when you're being ripped off. I'm going to move on to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which we know as HUD. Everybody know HUD? Okay. Well, they're laying off hundreds of workers and plans to close the field offices all around the country with a potential to lay off up to 4,000 employees or half the agency's workforce. With over 771,000 people experiencing homelessness and the average American now spending over 30% of their income on monthly rent, and some people 50%. I want you to know that HUD's work is more important than ever. Now, in our own community, we are tired of going down everything. Crenshaw, Weston, Vermont, Maine, Broadway, and we want the people off the ground. We want these unhoused people to have safe and secure housing. This is not a time to talk about cutting back and shutting down HUD. As a matter of fact, I'm very disappointed. He appointed a man of God, supposedly a minister, named Turner. And Turner is in charge of HUD now. He's the secretary. But guess what the first thing he told me? He told me that, not me, but, basically the whole public, that they're going to have to get rid of Section 8. You know what Section 8 is. Section 8 is that subsidy that we have to assist us when we can't pay this high rent that is being charged in California and every place else. So he's after Section 8. And every year I have about 15 projects for different communities, different cities in my district. He said he's going to cut all of that also. And so there is a shortage of 14 million homes for rent or purchase. Rents are up 50%, housing prices are up 60% since 2019. HUD's budget is less than 1%. Less than 1%. Not spending a lot of taxpayers' money, and they are going to cut back and lay off and fire people. HUD's budget, again, less than 1% of all federal spending. HUD provides safe, decent housing for seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, and HUD has helped 8 million Americans become homeless. 5 million renters are in HUD-assisted housing and public housing, and veteran homelessness is at its lowest level ever. I'm fighting to protect HUD. On March 6, 2025, I led Democratic members of Congress, fair housing advocates, and HUD staffers to agency headquarters in D.C. to hand-deliver a letter. This is new Secretary Turner, demanding answers amid Musk-Doge infiltration and unlawful staff termination. After being turned away, it wouldn't let us in by security, we joined the housing advocates, the affected families, as well as current and former HUD employees, and we held a big press conference in front of the agency calling for accountability. It's very important, while this is going on, for members of Congress to show up at these agencies, get in their face, challenge them, all of these new people that they are assigning to run these agencies. They gotta know that we're out there and that we're gonna fight them. In the latest budget bill, the Republicans in Congress slashed the federal housing budget by more than $500 million, putting 32,000 households at risk of eviction and homelessness. Now, they are concerned that they will cut the housing budget even further for fiscal year 2026. During the pandemic, I secured $5 billion in emergency housing vouchers to help house people at risk of homelessness. Unfortunately, due to the high demand and success of this program in ending homelessness for 71,000 households right here in this county, funds have run out sooner than we expected. So I've sent a letter to the chairman of the committee that I serve on, Chairman Hill, to join me in requesting full funds for more than 59,000 emergency housing vouchers currently being utilized to end homelessness across the country, including over 15,000 households in the state of California. I will continue to do everything in my power to make sure Americans have access to secure and affordable housing. Now, we do believe that there is something so precious, so wonderful, that no one would dare try to destroy. You know what they're going after? Social Security. He claimed that he would not cut it. When we really faced them down about Social Security, we're not cutting Social Security, but what they didn't tell us is they're destroying the infrastructure of Social Security. What they're doing is they're laying off the people. They're firing people. You can't get answers on the telephone. They took out the computers. They are destroying it from the inside. No, we're not cutting it, but they're killing it. And I want you to know that Trump said Social Security will not be touched. It will only be strengthened. But listen to what Trump's billionaire appointees are saying. Elon Musk calls Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. He calls Social Security a Ponzi scheme. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, oh my goodness, you saw him on television. He said only a fraudster would complain about a missed Social Security check. If people don't get their Social Security check, they may not be able to buy food. They may not be able to pay their portion of the rent. They may not be able to do anything. And so, it is very important that you have some place to call. If the Social Security check is not in your account or in your mailbox, you got somebody to call. If you're new and you're just getting onto Social Security, you got somebody to call to ask ask questions about new changes in Social Security, but they are dismantling it, and in our community already, some of the Social Security offices have already been shut. Trump and Musk and Doge are undermining the infrastructure of Social Security and they're talking about cutting 7,000 employees at the Social Security Administration. They're planning to take away the option to use the phone to file for benefits, requiring seniors to visit a field office if they could not use the internet. And the field offices will be so far apart after they close them down, they know that you won't easily get to them without transportation. Trump has put these plans on hold for now, but we know this administration will continue to make life harder for seniors. The more we protest, the more we speak up. Sometimes we can make them push back, but they don't intend to stop what they're doing. They're going to stop only if they don't hear from us and they get away with what they're doing. Okay, so Trump is adding Social Security numbers to the Social Security death list to force immigrants to leave the country. People who have their Social Security numbers placed on the death list by mistake can have their homes foreclosed on or their bank accounts closed. So if you had to call Social Security about this issue and your name got on the death list, you may not have anybody to talk to because they're not actioning, they're not responding. These actions could violate data, privacy laws, and those who end up on death lists report that mistakes can take months to fix. Trump is risking seniors' ability to receive the benefits they have earned. Quickly, I'm going to go into education. You know, he's closing the Department of Education altogether. They don't like it. And guess what? Guess where the Pell Grants and the student loans are? In the Department of Education. Guess where Title I for our elementary schools that help us so much to feed the children twice a day and to make sure that the children have what they need and to put them on the same level as children in other areas and where they have lots of money, that are getting the best in education. We want the children in all communities have the best in public education. And they don't want to come back. So he's going after our kids. He issued an illegal and unconstitutional executive order attempting to eliminate the Department of Education. His efforts include laying off over 2,000 current staff at the department and slashing vital education funds, which support basic education in reading, math, and science, assist students with disabilities, provide financial aid for college students, and help schools in underfunded areas improve educational opportunities. The Department of Education funds were appropriated by Congress and allocated for specific programs, including, as I said, Title I and the Pell Grants. These programs exist to ensure that every student in America can have a quality education. They're stealing the funds from our schools that Congress provided for our children's education. They're attacking even Head Start, a program which helps low-income children and families access early childhood education and health and nutrition services. Well, I want you to know this really does strike in my heart because that's where I came from. I came from being an assistant teacher when I first started, when Head Start was created. And I know when Head Start was done for our children, and they were to great at Head Start. We want to outpace the program by 2026, and it's going to be devastating unless we're able to afford child care and other services. Without this critical safety net, children will suffer. Now, Medicaid was denied. He wants to cut Medicaid. Trump said people won't be affected. It will only be more effective and better if he cuts it. That's crazy thinking. But Republicans in Congress have just approved a budget that would cut up to $880 billion from Medicaid, supported by all of the Republicans who did not stand up one time in defense of health care and the needs of people who cannot afford all of this expensive pharmacies and all of the other stuff that goes along with good health care. And so, $880 billion cut from Medicaid. Under the requirements of the budget, it will be impossible not to cut the benefits. Over 80 million Americans depend on Medicaid for their health care. Republicans plan to use the savings from cutting Medicare to fund, as I told you, the tax cuts for billionaires. He's laid off 20,000 from all of the Department of Health and Human Services, which includes the Centers for Medicare, Medicaid Services that administers Medicaid. And I'm not going to go into some of the other departments right now. We'll talk about them, but I'm anxious for you to hear, just hear from this panel. This panel, you hear some of what I said, you hear something about personal experiences. You hear something about what you learned on television today. I want to tell you, every day there's breaking news. There's breaking news about all kinds of things, about the head of, the Department of Armed Services, who is letting everybody know about classified information because they don't know how to use the internet. But I'm not going to get into that. Panel, I'm going to get started with you. And so, with that, we'll get started with our first panelist right now. Thank you. Did we introduce everybody? Reintroduce yourself. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay. All we need was someone to walk over here. I think we should just start here. All right. Let me know if, for whatever reason, you can't hear me. Just raise your hand, and I'll make sure that I adjust the mic. First of all, I want to thank you, Congresswoman, for all that you've done and everything Dr. Collins mentioned your fearlessness. I will also say relentlessness and just being a champion for our communities. And good morning to everybody. I'm delighted to be here. I'm Martha Santana-Chin. I'm the CEO for LA Care Health Plan. And LA Care Health Plan is proud to be the largest publicly operated health plan in the country. We serve 2.6 million members, 2.3 million who are covered by Medicaid, and here in the state of California, we lovingly call that Medi-Cal. And I'm just very grateful to be with you here today to share with you some of the consequences of the potential cuts that Congresswoman explained are on the table. I know firsthand what Medi-Cal does for somebody's security and long-term trajectory. I am the oldest of 9, a daughter of immigrants. I grew up on Medi-Cal, and so I personally know the security that the Medi-Cal program brings. Because we were on Medi-Cal, I didn't have to worry about having to see a doctor or paying for my eyeglasses. Instead, I was able to focus on my education and my future and get ahead. And that brought me to where I am here today. So I just simply can't stay silent as the federal government is contemplating cutting $880 billion from the Medicaid program. This program serves working families, children, women, people with disabilities, and it's really critically important that we're all aware of the consequences here. In Los Angeles County, in our community, 4 million people are covered by Medi-Cal. That's 41% of the residents of LA County that depend on this program. So it's very likely that you know someone, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, someone who serves you at a restaurant. This program is critically important. Additionally, not just in Los Angeles County, across the state, we have 15 million people that depend on this program. That's 5 million children. Almost half the kids in the state are covered by Medi-Cal. 2.3 million seniors and persons with disabilities depend on this program. 3.4 working Americans depend on this program here in the state of California. That's nearly 1 in every 5 workers in the state. But you know, these statistics aren't just the end of the story, because behind every single number there's a person. There's a mom that is accessing health care when their kid breaks their ankle, or takes a child to receive vaccines, or a senior or person with disability looking to just make sure that they continue to stay mobile, getting access to durable medical equipment, getting care in their home, or going to a nursing facility. And so it's really important that we protect these programs, because it's important that we help our seniors and our families live in dignity and receive the care that they need and deserve. You know, Medi-Cal isn't just about the health care, it's also about economic stability and economic mobility. You heard my own personal story, and I know I have many folks that are very similar to me, that this program helped them get ahead. And so this is really a critical support system for millions of working families that rely on this for health care. It's working class individuals who are caregivers, restaurant workers, construction workers, and the list goes on. Without Medi-Cal, these workers, not only is their health care at risk, but their livelihoods are also at risk. Medi-Cal also creates vital jobs. I'm sure when you drive around the county of Los Angeles, you see many hospitals, community clinics, and other healthcare systems. They all provide very good paying jobs. And if these funding cuts do go through, it will be inevitable that they're going to have to lay off workers. And so you can just imagine not only the impact on the workers themselves, but what it does to their communities. These are the very people that go and spend their money in the community to have a vibrant and thriving community. So the economy is at stake. Now, Medi-Cal is a program that's jointly funded. It's funded by the federal government, by the state, and also by the local communities. And to give you a sense of every dollar that is going to pay for Medi-Cal services, 62 cents is coming from the federal government. 22 cents is coming from the state, and the rest of it is coming from the local community. And what this would mean, the $880 billion in cuts for California means a cut of between $10 billion and $20 billion every single year. Now, the state wouldn't be able to afford to assume responsibility for all of that. As we know, our state is currently facing budget troubles, and so it's critically important that the Medicaid funding from the federal government continues. Now, some of the proposals that are being put on the table, that are being negotiated and considered as we speak, are to reduce significantly how much the federal government contributes to these programs. They're talking about imposing work requirements. They're talking about shifting costs to states and eliminating something that we call provider taxes, which is to health care. These provider taxes are to health care, the same thing as property taxes are to schools and education. These are all some of the proposals that are being considered, and that would have dramatic, devastating impacts here in our community. The state would have no choice but to reduce coverage or eliminate benefits and just reduce funding. And one of the things that I want to make sure everybody understands is, I want to dispel a myth. And the myth is that these federal cuts would impact only certain people. These cuts and the magnitude of the cuts will impact all people who rely on Medi-Cal. It will be devastating. For our rural parts of the county, rural parts of the state, and for our public health systems, it would be devastating. The rural county hospitals and the public health systems, the county hospitals and other services, they provide critical access to basic health care, including specialty care, inpatient care. They service trauma centers. Their funding would be at risk. There would be a reduction in access to treatment for things like substance use disorder, opioid use, mental health services. There would be a reduction in services to support children with disabilities, for example, hearing aid coverage, transportation, and services that are provided within the schools. There would be a reduction that would dramatically impact our seniors. Today, the nursing home services the overwhelming majority of the expenses associated with nursing home facilities is paid for by Medi-Cal. The cost of being in a nursing facility every single year costs today roughly $147,000 a year. There is no way the average Californian would be able to afford that kind of expense. And that's what's at stake. We need to make sure that we're aware of what's ahead of us and what could potentially happen. These impacts would be devastating, as I mentioned, to children, to moms, to families, to working individuals, and to seniors and persons with disability. You know, the bottom line with the Medi-Cal program is very clear. It creates jobs, it strengthens families, and it fuels economic growth in the communities that we live in. And you know, we've seen it time and time again. People who have access to health care can focus on work and providing for their families. They can contribute to a thriving community. And you know, we recognize that the federal government has tough budget decisions to make, but those budget decisions should not come on the backs of these individuals that depend on this program. At the end of the day, you know, healthcare is really not a partisan issue, it's a human issue. And we all deserve access to high quality care. And I want to encourage you to use LA Care as a resource and stay engaged, make sure you understand what's at stake here, and raise awareness and engage on these matters. There is a lot of material that we make available, so if you follow us on lacare.org/Medicaid Matters, again, that's lacare.org/Medicaid Matters. We have very simple fact sheets that explain what I just talked about. And I just want to thank you for listening and for doing everything that you can to support.
And we'll make sure everyone has your contact number that you just suggested that they can use if they need to ask a question.
Sure. If you go to lacare.org/Medicaid Matters, you will be able to get our contact information.
And we'll make sure that you also get that before you leave. Okay, we're going to move on, and we have with us next Chancellor Al-Mansour on Housing Rights Center.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is this working? Yes. Very good. I'm also very honored to be in your presence.
Speak right into that microphone so they can hear you way in the back.
So my name is Chancellor Al-Mansour. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Rights Center. We're the nation's largest fair housing council. We have offices throughout LA County, and we do clinics here in Inglewood. And I am also on the board of the National Fair Housing Alliance. I want to say that I witnessed and saw you on the hills on Capitol Hill in March on behalf of HUD and fair housing organizations, and I want to thank you so much, Congressman Waters, for your excellent dynamic work always. I also got my start with Head Start, but as a child of Head Start, as a graduate of the program in 1969, 1970. My mother was a single teenage mother in Oakland, California. It was the only reason why I was able to go to college and then to law school. And so I can also speak to the importance of Head Start and why these programs are so important. But let's talk a little bit about fair housing. The Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968 after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And it's it's been improved many times over the years to include other groups such as families with children from being protected from being discriminated against in housing. People with disabilities from being discriminated against in housing have also been added to fair housing coverage. So it's what protects tenants from being discriminated against by their landlords, by managers. It's also what protects people who are looking for homes from being discriminated against by the mortgage companies or lenders or realtors or the banks. And so forth. So the Fair Housing Act is really important. It's also what says to local communities you have to make sure that you have enough affordable housing available for seniors and for people with disabilities. All of that is because of the Fair Housing Act. HUD is the federal organization that administers the Fair Housing Act and that gives grants to local organizations like their housing councils to make sure that they have money in the local communities to fight for the rights of seniors, of people with disabilities, of people who, based on their race, are being discriminated against, which happens all the time to this day in Los Angeles County. And so in February, the administration cut the funding to over almost half of the fair housing councils, and fair housing organizations like mine have been cut off all of our federal funding. So we don't receive any federal funding anymore. That has enabled us since 1968 to provide fair housing services, so that when you are in contact or want to know what your rights are, we would be able to provide that services. Thankfully, there are organizations like LA Care that give grants and all this and that help other organizations, but we really need those federal funds. When Section 8 program is cut, that's a cut to the local economy. Those are landlords who aren't going to be receiving that money. So these federal cuts will impact everybody, not just people who are receiving these federal funds directly, but I think a lot of people understand how much the local economy really relies on these federal funds. The other thing that we're concerned about fair housing councils that's happening is the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Department within the Department of Justice was cut tremendously just in the last week. So let me tell you a little bit about Housing Rights Center. In 2005, we filed a very big lawsuit against Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling is one of the largest landlords in LA City, LA County, owns over 10,000 rental units, owns the LA Clippers, was later caught up in a scandal because he said some racist bad things against black men in particular. But anyway, we filed a lawsuit because he was kicking out all the black and Latino tenants from this building, in Koreatown, Los Angeles, and he was kicking out all the black and Latino tenants in preference for Asian tenants. And so we filed a big lawsuit. We represented over 19 families. And we were successful. But a lot of our things about our case were made to be confidential. Well, we then found out with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice came in and filed a bigger case against Donald Sterling, got a multi-million-dollar award against him, made him reinstate all the tenants and managers in his buildings and all these other kinds of things. So that's what I think the Department of Justice used to do. But now, they won't be doing those kind of things anymore. They won't be fighting housing discrimination cases anymore. Instead, they will be looking at other things. I don't even want to guess what those other things are, but it's not going to be on the behalf, I can guarantee you it's not going to be on the behalf of any of us in here. And so so the Housing Rights Center, I just want to say that we are still in existence. We are still fighting housing discrimination. Please contact us. Our website is housingrightscenter.org, housingrightscenter.org. And as I said before, we also provide free services. We have a 1-800 number, 1-800-477-5977. That's 1-800-477-5977. And so, as I said, we take complaints. We have people, counselors who speak almost every language. We also have people who can assist in everything when it comes to helping tenants with repairs, whether or not they're being evicted or not. We are also part of the State House LA County project, and so that means that we help tenants fight eviction, and we also provide rental assistance as well. And this is rental assistance that's provided through the City of Los Angeles and the County of Los Angeles. Very important rental assistance programs through the State House LA project. If you're a tenant who are in need of assistance, you can go to statehousela.org to apply for rental assistance or for eviction defense protection. So these are all things that organizations like the Housing Rights Center does on behalf of all tenants and of all people who are looking for housing. As Congresswoman Waters said, housing instability and homelessness is one of the #1 issues still in Los Angeles, in LA County, in Inglewood, and in all the cities that surround Inglewood. And so we have to, having any cuts to federal funding to homeless service programs is just unheard of, but it's happening. So since the person put up is under just a couple other cuts that I just want to mention. So the cuts to the ESGB emergency shelter grants program is being cut. Money that would go to the homeless service program. So shelters right now, a lot of them receive federal funds, a lot of those funds are going to be cut. So we, again, in our local, in our cities, in our counties, we will see an increase in unhoused people because of these federal cuts. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for all of this attention to housing on a rainy Saturday morning. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I have to say that a lot of people don't know that housing discrimination still exists. And people don't know that there are landlords and folks who are turning down the people who are disabled. They don't want them in their units. They're turning down people with children. They're turning down people of color still in this country. And some places in the country are worse than others. But that's why we need this counseling. We have a law. We have a law that is against this kind of discrimination, but it is violated every day. So thank you so very much. Thank you for being here. Now, I'm going to take a moment and tell you a little something extra about our next panelist. He's someone you may recognize if you follow the retro group and if you're about my age. Sha-na-na. John Bowser made his living writing and performing music back in the 70s and 80s, but now he is better known as a political activist and tireless advocate for causes he believes in. Bauman has worked as a spokesman for the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare and co-founded the group Seniors Votes Count, which is a political action committee designed to protect and advance the rights of elderly Americans. He's currently a senior advisor to Social Security Works Political Action Committee, a national organization working to elect candidates who support protecting and expanding Social Security benefits. He travels all over the country advocating for seniors. Now, one of the reasons I want to take a little time to tell you who he is. Oftentimes, people say, well, I don't know, what can I do to help? I don't know anything. We all know something. And we can all be volunteers when we have time. And when we retire, we can be volunteers. We can keep busy. Get connected to an organization that's doing something that you think needs to be done. One person can make a difference in our lives in so many different ways. So I want you to welcome John Sha-na-na.
All right, thank you. Hands off Social Security. Say it with me, so Donald Trump and Elon Musk can hear it. Hands off Social Security. You know I love the music of the 50s and the early 60s. But that does not mean that I actually want to return to the 50s or the early 60s. And neither should you. Because I want to return to a time before Medicare was passed. In 1965, when over 35% of American seniors had incomes below the poverty line. And I certainly do not want to return to a time before Social Security was passed in 1935, because before Social Security, over 50%, more than 1 out of every 2 American seniors had incomes below the poverty line. Social Security and Medicare are the 2 most successful domestic programs in the entire history of the United States of America, and we need to keep them that way. In fact, we need to expand them. And we'll get to that, I'm guessing in about 2029. But right now, we're in a different mode. We're in hands-off mode. We're on defense, and we're going to stop them from destroying Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and tell you what just happened. This Thursday, 2 days ago, we had a series of actions. Social Security Works sponsored a series of actions along with Indivisible, a lot of other people. A letter came from Elizabeth Warren's office. Dozens of Social Security offices hosted us to deliver a letter to this guy, Leland Dudek, who's the acting commissioner of Social Security, who no one's ever heard of because they had to go 120 people deep into the Social Security Administration to find someone who would do their bidding. But this guy's doing it. So the letter to Mr. Dudek says, no closures of Social Security offices. None. 0. And we have been winning this fight. I really want you to understand how important it is that we have been winning the fight. They were going to suspend phone service. Do you remember they were going to suspend phone service to the Social Security Administration where you couldn't call in anymore, and that was going to happen on April 14th? Do you know what happened? They took it back. Do you know why they took it back? Because all of us got out there on the streets and to the offices and they raised our voices and made them heard, and they took it back. They were going to close 47 Social Security offices. They had a list. They put it out. We got out there. You know what they're closing right now? 0. But we've got to keep it that. We've got to keep it that. We've got to keep the pressure. The point is that the public pressure works. It really works. We've got Elon Musk on the run. He's, information is he's leaving Doge soon to try to take care of that other business that's lost billions of dollars for him, Tesla. So that'd be great. We're very sad to. Oh, I guess we should sing a song. Good night, Elon Musk. Well, it's time to go. We're certainly not going to miss you, but anyway, that was Thursday's action. I want to take off on something that Representative Waters said, which was about what do they really want to do in the end result? Privatize this. That's what they're after. They want to privatize and monetize it. Social Security, they want to turn the money. They want to get you to turn your hard-earned money that you paid into the system for your whole life over to Wall Street. Who's going to love that? Wall Street. Who's going to give them massive campaign contributions? Wall Street. Same thing with Medicare. Turn it back to private insurance. Insurance companies will love it. There'll be insurance companies now delaying and denying you in between you and your doctor again, even when you're 65 years old and over. It's really easy to understand what's going on here. It's all about privatization. With Social Security, they're going about it this back doorway because, as Representative Waters knows, they can't do that much legislatively to Social Security benefits. So they're trying to actually destroy the Social Security Administration. They got themselves to a pretty good start of it, but they're not going to finish it because we're going to stop them. And I should say at this point that I did 2 town halls with Maxine Waters last week. And I've rarely enjoyed anything more in my life because it's so wonderful to be up here with one of the most fierce candidates that there has ever been for the Social Security program. In fact, she is so fierce that during this week, we at Social Security Works decided to give Maxine Waters something that we have rarely given out to people, but sometime you and I will figure out with staff what, when this occasion will be. We're going to present you with our Social Security Champion Award. Because you have earned it in all your decades in Congress by truly, deeply being one of the most fierce advocates for Social Security that there has ever been in Congress since the program was passed. So thank you. 89 years it's been since that Social Security's payments have never missed a check. And we're going to keep that up. We're worried that in the next 3 months, you mentioned the Howard Lutnick thing. There's a guy sitting there in a $5,000 suit, basically saying, let them eat cake, saying, his 94-year-old mother-in-law wouldn't care if she missed her check. She just say it's going to come next month. Well, that's easy for him to say. He's got $3.8 billion, and he doesn't seem to understand that a majority of Americans on Social Security rely on the program for all or most of their income. Take that, Mr. Howard Lutnick. Try to understand that. Take that, Donald Trump. Take that, Elon Musk. Social Security has never missed a payment, and we're going to make sure it never does. So, like my mother Housing would say, if you're coming back in, bump, 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 dang, 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 ding, dong, ding, hands of Social Security.
And how important it is, and how when we take back the house, I really want you to use it more. But we have someone here who worked there and really knows how it works and what it's been able to do for the people of this country. Now, I want you to know we went over there when they put people out and literally put a sign up. A sign up was saying that the place was for lease. When I went over to take a look. But we joined with the union, and we had a hell of a ride. I mean, it was a ride. We called them out, and they sent their haters to meet us and to get us, but I was okay. I had security with me. And so when they came near, they were made to understand they better back off. And so I'm so proud of all of these people who work for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're tough, and they've got a lot of young, tough lawyers over there, and a lot of tough people. And some of them may be a little bit worried about getting so public. Some of them are not willing to do that right now, but the majority of them are on the street. And I want you to know that they are protesting big and loud. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Melissa Rosenblatt, go right ahead.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for coming out on this rainy morning. I'm Marissa Rosenblatt. I'm currently employed with the CFPB. It's been changing day to day. As Representative Waters mentioned just a few moments ago, we've been illegally fired, brought back, illegally fired, brought back, week after week. So I'm happy to be here and share a little bit about what's been going on as a federal worker from the inside. So the CFPB is the only federal agency dedicated to protecting consumers from harm in the financial sector. So when Wells Fargo ripped you off, we were the ones that made them pay you back. When your payday lender is charging you junk fees, we're the ones that make them pay you back. If your auto lender, if your mortgage lender is not doing what they're supposed to do, you can file a complaint, you can get in touch, and someone at the CFPB will get to the bottom of it and get you the resolution that you deserve. We've handled 3.5 million complaints from consumers just last year, and we've returned $21 billion to consumers through all of this work. So it's incredibly important work that protects all of us, but over the past couple of months, all of that has come to a stop. This administration came into the offices in DC in February. They brought, the DOGE, so-called Department of Government Efficiency, to come in. They got access to the building in DC. They locked the doors, told everyone that works there, we're in charge now. A couple of days later, on Monday morning, we all got an email saying, pencils down. Stop all of your work, no publishing of reports. If you're a lawyer, you're not going to court, everyone just stop, we're in charge. Okay, the following day, I got an email with about 200 of my colleagues to my personal email saying that I've been terminated, effective immediately. There was no, information about how I could get unemployment, none of the required forms that I needed, nothing that I needed. I think the letter said something like, you're being fired because your skills are no longer a fit for the agency, which was news to me. I had just been hired a couple of months before. My boss hadn't been consulted, and the 200 other people that were also fired got the exact same, email with the exact same templated message all at the same time. So they fired us illegally, and we realized what was going on. They wanted to essentially gut and shut down the entire agency from the inside, and they were willing to do anything, including firing us illegally, to make that happen. So we got into court a couple of days later, got in front of a judge, presented the facts. We also found out they had plans to lay off about 95% of the agency, and she put a pause to it, very luckily. And so that was, in February, and since then it's just been back and forth. I was reinstated in March, brought back to do some work, thanks to some courts that, another litigation that's been filed. But I came back and was supposed to get back to work, but they laid off all of our contractors. All of our systems were taken over, and so there was really no way to get back and handle these consumer complaints, get back to publishing reports and resources that consumers depend on. There was no way to do anything. And then as of last week, they sent reduction in force or RIF notices to 95% of the agency, including me, again. So really, as of right now, just this morning, more declarations came out with information about this case and what's been going on and what DOJ and this administration are trying to do, because they're not going to stop. And so we have to stop them, and that's what we're trying to do in the courts, but also on the streets. So as a federal worker and all federal workers at the CFPB, we're united with other labor unions. We have a great chapter. It's Local 335 of the National Treasury Employees Union. And we've been out there. We're organizing pickets weekly in cities across the country. We have folks in New York City. We have folks in Philadelphia and in DC who are, in the streets, showing up to fight the cuts to our agency and also cuts to all of the other agencies that provide these essential services. Everyone that's here today is talking about services that the federal government and federal workers provide. We took these jobs because we wanted to serve the American public. I worked in tech for 10 years prior to this job. I saw what was going on there. I saw what happens when billionaires try to take over. It's layoffs, it's chaos, it's more money for them and less services for their customers. And so I wanted to get into public service. I thought, this is going to be a good job with a great mission and something that's stable, nonpartisan, and will be here to stay. But with these, billionaires in charge, they have the same agenda. They want to take, all of this, all the services that are provided, cut them, privatize them, and make more money for themselves. And you may ask, well, why does Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, care about a relatively small agency? We've got less than 2,000 workers. I'll give you an example. Elon Musk owns X, formerly known as Twitter. They want to turn Twitter into a payments platform. Who do you think is the regulator that would be in charge of making sure that Elon Musk is following the rules on that payments platform? It's the CFPB. He doesn't want us there. He doesn't want anyone in the way of being able to rip people off. So, like I said, we're here, we're organizing with other federal workers because these services are too important and they impact all of us. And so we encourage folks to get active, spread the word. That's why I'm here today. I was here last week and really happy to share, it's been a really difficult time for federal workers because people need to understand that we're everywhere. We're not just in DC. I live here in Los Angeles. There's federal workers from all of the agencies that are here in Los Angeles, and we need these jobs. We need these jobs. We need the services, and so we're going to fight for them. If you want to get involved and see more about what federal workers are doing to organize, you can go to savepublicservices.com. There's information there. We have actions, like I said, in every city, almost every day. And we're really getting out there to advocate for saving these services because we need them and we need them to exist with no cuts. So thank you so much again. And thank you for being an advocate for them. We really appreciate it.
Going to have Alba in Gisa and Joyce Jennings about education. They're going to talk about the impact of these cuts on education. So let's start with Ms. Abba in Geisha.
Thank you, Congresswoman. My name is Abba Lisa. As she said, I am a proud teacher. I've been teaching over 20 years. I'm a former president of the Inglewood Teachers Association. I'm a California Teachers Association elected member. I was a delegate to the Democratic Party, and I'm also the chair for the Children's Caucus. Children's issues are extremely important to me, and I want to thank the Congresswoman for when we were going through some of the most difficult times in Inglewood during the state receivership when I was president at the time. You would call and you would ask how our members were doing and what we could do to support them. And so thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Just want to start by just saying bluntly that a lot of this is about racism. There's a lot of prejudices, it's sexism. And one of the things that Nelson Mandela stated was his quote right here. It says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world," emphasizing the transformative potential of education for both individuals and their community. And this is about dismantling public education. And it is about making certain that a certain group of people are not educated. I want to be clear on that. The Department of Education, when it was formed, we think back and we think about that special education. Students who had special needs were not allowed in public schools. A lot of times they were put in certain specialized schools for them. Students who spoke a second language often were not allowed to come into the schools. They were removed. They said if you didn't speak this English language, you could not be educated. They were discriminated against. We know what went on and continues to go on with people of color, blacks, the civil rights movement, the dismantling of education, Brown versus Board of Education, the states, saying you're sending this back to the states. It was often the states who put in the most brutal policies that affected black children and made sure that black children were not educated or received the resources they need. Women, sexism, this is huge. There was a time when we women could not go into the STEM fields. It was made very clear this is not where you can go. Even in some places now, girls are told, don't go into the STEM field. And when we speak about the states, these are people who are running the states. And so when we think about the people running the states, we have to think about where is their mindset. How do they view people who do not look like them or think like them? And that's how these policies are being formed. Because they're taking their personal belief, whether you don't like someone because of the color of their skin, you don't like someone because of their gender, you don't like me because I'm overweight, you don't like me because of this or that, and you're putting these policies into place, then that has a negative impact on them. And this is what's happening with our students. It's not enough. As an educator, I really believe that it is not enough for us to just be aware of what's going on, but we have to stand up and we have to fight for our children. Because our children, one day, will be grown, just like all of us and all of you in here. And they either will not have jobs, they may have gone through really post-traumatic situations with teachers or within their school systems. And so it is up to us that we see what's going on here. Everything the Department of Education fought for is being dismantled. And so how is that going to affect our children and your children? And so I'm asking that we all stand up and we speak about it. And I was speaking to someone. We were having an organizational at CTA last April. This April, and someone had spoken up about protesting, saying that I don't want the spotlight on me. because of everything that's going on, how can I be a part of this where my name, my face is not seen, because I'm worried about myself and how that's going to affect me, and rightfully so. But at the same time, who's going to support the children? Because people fought for us so that we could have the rights as women. So our students with special needs could have the rights that they have right now. So our students who speak their first language is not English could have the rights that they have right now. So women, girls, could say, I want to go into the military. I want to go into space. People fought for us to have these rights. And so it's really important that as educators we speak up and we don't stop speaking up and fighting for the rights of our children. Book banning. Just think about it. It keeps going in my mind. And who's saying that? The sound of silence? Simon and Garfunkel's. When we're silent, we allow things to keep happening. And so we need to speak up. And as an educator, that is my job, to speak up for our children. Thank you.
Also joining her is Ms. Joyce Jennings. She is a member of the United Teachers of Los Angeles, the California Federation of Teachers, the California Teachers Association, and the National Education Association. Thank you.
Good morning, Congresswoman Lawrence, staff, and distinguished guests. It's really an honor and a pleasure for me to speak to you and highlight the effects of the recent cuts to education, because this disrespect and disregard for our children and communities is nothing new. As a teacher and a union activist, I have lived my adult life in support of the well-being and safety and educational rights of children in our state and our nation. I'm Joyce Jennings, a teacher, union activist, and Inglewood resident, all of which, as a young person, I did not realize would be a political statement. I have walked the streets to end privatization, and I have joined you, Congresswoman, to save schools that have gone into privatization and to lose our schools in LAUSD, where I work as a teacher. I've also lobbied in your office during those AFT days to get rid of the WEP GPO so that we could have that Social Security for teachers. So, as a young woman, I attended UC schools and Cal State schools, and it was affordable. But when it was time for me to put my children into those same systems, it would have cost me 40% of my annual teacher salary. So that is not a sustainable practice. So when we think about it, we have to go ahead and think, this is a protracted struggle, right? That we're talking about continuously stripping our communities of opportunities and their resources and their basic human rights. So I want to ask you, can we agree that these recent cuts to education have been totally devastating? Yes. Can we agree on that? Okay. So as a teacher, I see funding cuts, I see privatization and immigration policies that have been devastating, and they have a devastating effect on my students, the communities, and the educators that I actually work with. This is so devastating. And in my union, I'm from UTLA and LAUSD, and we call it FUD. We call it fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And this is what we're dealing with on a daily basis with these policies and cuts that have taken place. Our curriculum and our ethnic studies is being just trashed, right? We have these bans on books. And when I'm talking, I'm of course not just talking about the state of California, I'm talking about the whole country. Because as a union activist, we work with the NEA and the AFT, and that's a national organization. So this is what we're talking about nationwide, and it affects my children, it affects my nieces and nephews, and I know it does for you the same. You're thinking about these young people. So as we're looking about all these bans on books and charter school co-locations, we have the rights of our trans and LGBTQ students, and staff, they're endangered. And so these are just oppressive and hateful policies. In LAUSD, where I work, the federal government is talking about cutting $1.2 billion out of our budget. And that means that's an average of like $3,000 per child. And we know that we need more funding for our students, don't we? Don't we need more funding for our kids? So this is going to mean that there's going to be cuts to special education, Title I, as was mentioned before. And so these are just terrible things that our students are going to be facing. So I want to let you know, when I found out I had to speak, I got on the phone and I started talking to some young people who either are students or who work at these universities. And so I want to read this as a list of things that are going on. So you ask me, what's happening with these cuts? So I want to read it as a list. So go ahead and feel free to participate. Give me a clap, a snap, whatever, have mercy. But I want to read this as a list of what's going on firsthand. And they were just able to just rattle these things off to me that are happening at these universities, because we, as union activists, we also represent higher ed. So it's not just preschool to 12, we represent higher ed, and we are tasked with sending kids to higher ed. That's a part of our job description. But it's now that they have to be put into debt, right? And that we're tasked to send them to be in debt. But I want you to hear some of the things that they said that they're spending their time on since these cuts have taken place. So let me begin. Okay, first thing they had to do was they had to scrub their social media and websites of any reference to DEI instead of servicing students. Research funds have been severely cut. HIV research labs are totally struggling, and they are not able to say that they are doing specific research on any certain population. Okay? There's no jobs in these science sectors that we're sending our students. We're telling them go into STEM, but it has totally devastated. NIH has had 40% of their budgets cut. And so the nonprofits are now being decimated because of these funding cuts. Students don't have the internships, and they're not going to be as well prepared as they're leaving out, as they're graduating. So the cuts to education have been so devastating to older professors. Sometimes people want to be an emeritus. They've cut them. That's over. Okay? There's the fact that, of course, everyone's on edge, right? People are walking around. Some people have been snatched off of the campuses. Okay, visas have been revoked, and I was told that one student had their visa revoked just because they had been pulled over for a tail light. Now, that doesn't mean there was, anything else happened, but they were not able to get their visa. Diversity offices, of course, we know have been closed. Everyone has been cutting scholarships because they can't specify for a particular population. So you know that $5,000 you were expecting to get? All of a sudden this year, it's gone. Somebody donated $250 million or whatever $1,000. Oh, now it's just absorbed into the general fund for the school. So we're seeing so many different things that have taken place just because of this certain, what can I say? Belief systems. I'll go on. But I want you to know, as a teacher, we always have to have hope, right, for our future. And I believe in our students. So I want to say that when I talked to the young people, they said, we're not the same as you all. Okay? So they said, they've been educated now. We've taught them to advocate for themselves. And so they're saying competition is not the way. And I'm quoting the young people now. They said democratic socialism is seeing a resurgence. So I said, okay, we're going to teach you something, right? All right? So they would say the old style of no life balance is not working. So there's going to be a resurgence to survive, not, to thrive, not survive. And they're stepping away from that whole formula of capitalism. They say it's a facade when they have no time and they're just being overworked. And they say, we can't even afford property, so why should we care? We're going to prioritize our mental health. So I just want to say that I do have hope in our young people, but these budget cuts are so severe. The research that is being lost right now, we don't even know how devastating this is, going to be for our future, because we don't know all the research. But I just want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for, being here in the rain. We love agitating so we can mobilize you to action. So thank you.
Sitting next to you are two representatives of a service that we're all aware of, that we interact with on a daily basis. And I just want to say, before Dominique Davis and Larry Brown speak, yes, we complain a lot about the post office. And we say they didn't come to me, but we love the post office. We love the post office. Not necessarily mail for my personal family, but I want the flyers to know what the discounts are at the supermarket. And to put the flyers in there also. And so we know that they want to privatize Postal Service. They didn't just start. They started with DeJoy. And DeJoy has a reason why he quit. He owned a trucking company that he started using instead of the airplanes to deliver, which took 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days before it got to the place it was supposed to go. There's a lot I can say about it. We complain, but we love you. All right, go right ahead.
Yeah, that might sound. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank Congresswoman Maxine for having us here today. Can we have one applause for her? And also, from a show of hands, how many people here have mail received at the house? That's so important to me because these actions are going to impact everyone in here. And so it's so important because the Postal Service, it will be having our 250-year anniversary this July. And in 2018, President Trump at that time said he wanted to privatize the Postal Service, and he was met with indifference and resistance by us at that time then. But now it looks more. He's going to put more of an effort together. He already threatened to put the Postal Service under the Department of Commerce and then therefore start the privatization process. How will that impact you? It would definitely, because this is not something that's for profit. It's a service for everyone. And they've already said they don't want to deliver to 169 million addresses because you're not going to make a profit. So when businessmen want to take over something like this, it's very questionable. As Sister Maxine Waters just said, we had a person making profits, but now he's resigned. Now the Doge is already coming into the Postal Service as he approved it, but then he left. So he won't be part of the fraud investigation now. But I'd just like to say, because this is for the people, and this is under our Constitution for the people, it's really concerning. Right now, we have always marched, me and brother, President Larry Brown, for our members to make sure they have their jobs. But now, this is about making sure you still have your mail delivered to your home, and you don't have to figure out a new way to get your mail. Because if they're taking over and they want for profits, you might have to go to a post office 10 miles away because they're going to close down all the post offices. Because again, that's not going to make a profit. We're running all these different post offices in every neighborhood. And when we sit down nationally, we have a lot of concerns. So, brother, President Brown, who's also a national officer for the National Association of Letter Carriers, so he wears dual hats, is going to give a little bit more information on a lot of the actions and the mandates that are currently taking place. Brother Brown.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I would like to thank Congresswoman Maxine Waters, longtime supporter. I've been president 36 years. She's been there right with me for 36 years. I'm very sad. Long lifetime friend, a whole family, Sydney, the kids, all of them. Let me read you a memo, a directive that came out March the 27th from the White House, from Trump. President Trump signed an executive order entitled Exclusion from Federal Labor Management Relations Programs. Basically what they're saying, that they're doing away with contracts, any agreements with the union dues, try to cripple the unions by attacking their finances, their ability to collect union dues. We just finished a contract. It was arbitrated and mediated, and in that agreement, we're doing our own union dues, not the Postal Service. So some of the unions were getting prepared for this move by the Trump administration in advance. But for those unions that don't have that ability, how are they going to function if they don't have any dues coming in? How are they going to represent their members? They don't intend for the members to get representation. And now they're talking about performance. Well, anybody that's brought up on performance or you're not doing your job, you're given a period of rehabilitation or to rehab yourself. Well, right now in that agreement with all these federal workers, it's 30 days. You can go up to 120 days to try to rehab or try to prove that you're a capable employee. So they reduced the 120 days. Now you have to turn it around in 30 days. Okay, so what if I'm a difficult employee? Maybe I'm having issues at home that may affect my performance on the job. All of that would be wiped out because of the fact instead of the 120 days, you have the 30 days. And then they have some mandates on how to deal with discontinue the grievance participation. And we know when you have an issue, you go file a grievance. But here, what they're saying, in keeping with the provisions of the FSLMRS, the CBAs, that's collective bargaining agreements, provide for binding arbitration of union grievances, including disputes over whether personnel actions were justified. To implement exclusions, agencies should cease participating in grievance procedures after terminating the collective bargaining agreement. To the extent that covered agencies and subdivisions are litigating grievances before an arbitrator when they terminate their collective bargaining agreements, they should discontinue participation in such proceedings upon termination. Agencies can and should compensate arbitrators for work performed prior to the termination of the CBA, that's the collective bargaining agreement, but not for any work performed thereafter. Agencies should participate in further grievance arbitration proceedings following the termination of their collective bargaining agreements. We were able to negotiate, arbitrate, mediate an agreement with those employees in the building with us, and they didn't even know we were in the same building negotiating the contract. So DeJoy was getting calls from the White House to get out of there. They told him, leave, get out. He stayed, okay, until he got a call from a higher up in the White House. Then he cut out. But we were able to finish that degree. So we have a contract, believe it or not. I don't want to say that too loud, okay? But any problem, you know what that means. Come right back at me. But we were able to get that, so we have cover on us. And we got that because DeJoy didn't leave when they told him to leave. And he stayed. So he's gone now, but the damage has already been done. Like Maxine said, he's got a trucking business. And so all this long time delay of the mail, if you were flying the mail, we wouldn't be having all these delays. But he's in the trucking business, so let's truck the mail. So all of that can be turned around if we flip it in the midterms coming up. So they're not going to dismantle the postal service. You'll continue to get your mail. We had a big rally 2 weeks ago. Congresswoman Waters is right there with us. We had 6 other Congress people. All the unions participated, all federal workers, and we had a tremendous turnout. And at that rally in downtown LA, there were 200, almost 300 rallies nationwide going on. They tried to, that last 1970 strike on the Postal Service, they brought out the military, they couldn't handle it. And so nobody here could handle it, talking other employees. The Postal Service is a big operation, and they couldn't come in and do it like they did those other agencies. It's in the Constitution, but it's 640,000 people work for the Postal Service. That's a lot of people to come in and say dismantle. And they asked for 10,000. They've been given an early out since January. They probably got the 10,000. Okay, so these cuts that they are contemplating are really not needed. In fact, we're short of letter carriers. Now you let all these people go, who's going to deliver the mail? So it's busting up from inside out. So again, we will fight till we die. We will not let the Postal Service be dismantled.
I've been working with him for 36 years. You don't want to tell you how old he is. He's really 40 years.
40 plus.
I want you to know he's the one that educated Bill Clinton on Postal Service. They both at my home.
Right.
When he started making sure that Bill Clinton knew what he had to do for the Postal Service.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the questions and answers, there are some people that I want to introduce. And one of them, I'm going to ask to come to the microphone if they can get one available for her. The City Councilwoman, Gloria Gray, is in the audience. I saw her when I was coming in. Where are you, Councilwoman Gloria? Please stand up. She had to leave. She knows she's not supposed to leave until I introduce her. But thank you. I'm going to go ahead and introduce a number of people in the room. Inglewood School Board Member Margaret Evans, Area 4, is in the room. We also have Councilwoman from Gardena, Paulette Franson, is in the room. Please stand. We have Reverend Warren Henderson, the president of the Inglewood Area Ministers Association, is here. Please stand. Inglewood School Board Member, Ernesto Castillo, Area Number 5, please stand. I know he's here. Pat Sanders, the Vice Chair of the LA Democratic Party. I want you to give a round of applause to leadership, wherever it is. We need it now more than ever. cannot afford. And some of them are represented here today. As I understand it, is the Venice Health Clinic here today. Please stand as you are. Okay, I don't see them identified here, but let me just ask, is the Wattell Foundation Health Clinic here? Is Oma in the house? Is there someone else that provides these Title IX services in community health centers? If you're in the room, please stand. I would like people to know who you are. The federal government, and particularly all of the caucuses of the Democratic Party, are very, very supportive of all of the healthcare services because we understand that without them, please, would someone please don't get the name and give it to me? Yes. Where is that? Okay, my staff still has not learned cursive writing, and so teachers, I insist that we get cursive writing taught in the school. I don't know what my staff is saying in Washington. I don't know what they're saying here. When I say write me a note, it does no good because I cannot read their writing. I want you to get them back into cursive writing. This is Ultimate that's in the room. And this is an important healthcare provider in our community. And I know they're on a list to eliminate health disparities in our communities with personalized, culturally inclusive care and support. And they have facilities throughout the South Bay. And the Director of Government Services is Rolando Chavez. Please stand. Okay, we have someone else, and the Inglewood Unified School District, James Morris is here. Okay, this writing is a little bit better. The superintendent of Inglewood is here. All right, James. Thank you very much. That's Supervisor James Morris. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna get the phones lined up. You may ask anything you want to ask. You may say anything you want, but you can't take 5 minutes to do it. You can only take a minute or two, but let it come out. Don't think I don't know enough. Don't think that I can't ask if they already said it. I'd like them to repeat it. I want you to get into this. This is a crucial time in the history of this country. You have a president with a co-president and all of his subalterns who are following him. That cabinet is outrageous and it is ridiculous. You have a woman heading education that's in charge of false wrestling, and so she doesn't know a darn thing about education. Never been in the room. We can talk about all of that, but let me wind this up as you're coming to the microphone to say this. The President of the United States is aligned with Putin in Russia. He loves Putin. He likes the idea of dictatorship. And when we talk about coups, I want you to recognize historically what we have learned about coups in countries when they take them over. And that is this. One of the things they do, well, here are some of the things they do. The Justice Department. He has taken over the Justice Department. The President of the United States should never involve him or herself in the Justice Department. But he wants to use it for revenge. He wants to use it for revenge for all of those who have been in situations where they've had to disagree with him, the Justice Department. In that Justice Department, the Civil Rights Division is being eliminated altogether. Let's move on to see what happens in a coup. You want to get rid of the media. And so what he's doing is he is now not allowed allowing certain media to be at the White House briefings to get the information. He's eliminating them. And he went up against CBS, and CBS folded and ended up paying him a lot of money because they were afraid of him. The media is another thing that happens in a coup when a dictator is taking over a country. Private law firms. He had gone to the private law firms and dared them to take up lawsuits against him and demanded that they give pro bono services wherever he tells them to give it. They have folded. Most of them have folded. Only one, I think, or two have stood up and said, you cannot tell us what to do. Colleges, education, universities, Columbia had to fold because they needed the money. But let me just tell you, even though a lot of people think of Harvard as being so elitist, so high-ranking, so this, that, and the other, Harvard stood up and said, oh no, you can't tell us how to perform education. You can't tell us what we cannot do and we must do. This university, they said, has been here before there was an America. They were here before America. And in addition to that, they've said 7 presidents of the United States went through this university. You think you can tell us what to do? We're going to file a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit. And they included everything in it about all the money that they give for research, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not worried about their money, but I'm worried about this intrusion, this invasion of education, where you're going to tell a university or a college what they can and cannot teach. And so, these are all the makings of a coup. You're talking about the media, you're talking about the Justice Department, private law firms, and the universities and education and all of that. We've got to be absolutely concerned. Don't take this as another just problem that they're having with government that they can get over. This is real. Now, Elon Musk is talking about he's going to have to limit some of the days that he's spending. But as we say in our community, God speaks in mysterious ways. He lost 71% of the investment in his country. And that's what should happen. He has no business over here. We pay him billions of dollars, which we've got to really investigate. And all of the contracts that he's got, all of the trips and all of the missions that he's had, and he's been working on taking us to Mars for a long time. I want to go to Mars. I want the money right here in the United States. And so, I want you to take this seriously, and I want you to be involved at your churches, at your social club, at all of the interactions that you have throughout the community. This is what I want you to talk about. I want you to ask people how they're doing. I want people to know that we understand that we're in danger in this country of a coup. We're in danger of a president who does not respect our democracy. The democracy is at stake. He is changing the way justice and equality is meeting out in a democracy. We're still fighting to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. We have not finished the work yet on making sure that the democracy works for everybody. And they're trying to dismantle it in ways that we know. And with that, we have people lined up. Will you help us get started? We're going to go to each side of the room. And I want somebody here standing here with me to help recognize the people. Would you come over here? Are you trying to be a cameraman? I don't know if that's your best time. Why don't you come over here with me? I want you to listen carefully to these questions with me. Thank you very much. This is Hamilton Cloud. He is a longtime member of my staff. So he doesn't mind when I tell you where his talents lie. Okay, let's get started. Speak up.
Good morning, Congressman. I appreciate you coming to our community today. I've heard most of the things that have been talked about here today every day. And I appreciate the panelists and them discussing all the issues that have affected their specific organizations. But my question for my family and my community is, what is the plan and what are the steps that Congress is going to take to get him out of office? That's what we need to know.
Okay, all right, that's a good question. Now, let's do a little bit about how the Constitution works. Right. Number one, we lost the last general election. We lost the presidency because of the vote. For some reason, those people that followed him, they voted and they voted in large numbers and they won. So in the House where I serve, we're not in the majority, and so we get blocked by the majority Republicans who support him to kill our legislation. And so this is a point where we understand voting is everything. Voting is everything. Voting is everything. That is how we elect the President of the United States, the people in the House of Representatives, and the people in the Senate, where we're now in the minority. And so we have to devise everything that we can put together. When I tell you about the amicus briefs that we support on the lawsuits that are filed, the members of Congress are trying to influence the courts with these amicus briefs to say that the lawsuits are good lawsuits. They're trying to protect the democracy. And Judge, we want you to take what you're hearing in the protest and in these amicus that we're filing. We want you to vote in our favor so that you can help us to make sure that we get that which is constitutionally protected and that which has been voted on by both of the houses and put on a president's desk sometime in the past, who signed into law something that we had worked on, that now, in order to undo that, they got to come back and try and undo it. And that's pretty dangerous, because if they're able to vote, if we're able to vote to undo it, we'd be in good shape. If we're not, it may not get to his desk, but if he gets to his desk, he's not going to support us. But the town halls, the protests, the amicus briefs, everything that we're doing without having to vote, that really determines the democracy, is what we're working on. In 2 years, we'll have the primary. We're going to try and change the primaries that we have, where they're getting better people elected, so that we can get better people elected. We're raising a lot of money to do that, and we're going to keep doing that for the next 2 years and 4 years. We hope to get them out of office. That's the only way it works. Okay, next, over on this side.
Hey there, I want to salute all of you. I want to salute all of you for coming out and helping to mobilize us into action.
Speak very loud, speak up.
Okay, so you guys are mobilizing us into action, and I came out in the rain today, and if it had been snowing in LA, I would have come today, because you guys have given us so much information. I really appreciate that. Okay. So since they're in the hate and harm business, we have to do as much as we can. We need to come out to all the town halls. We need to get out, and protest and do whatever we need to do, because they're in the incarcerate, not educate business. They're really trying to do more harm than good. So I'm hoping that everybody will pay attention and come. I don't know how we get as much information as we need about the town halls, but if you could get as much information out to everybody so that they can come and attend more.
That's very important. I want you to know, how many have heard of an organization called Indivisible? Indivisible has been doing an excellent job of getting the word out, and we're going to try and add to that with some radio announcement. We may have to pay for them, and try to get the newspapers to carry more information about the protest. I want you to know, but I'm proud of some of the 43rd, in front of Elon Musk's headquarters on Crenshaw and 120th, we had almost 4,000 people who protested in front of his building. 2 weeks ago in Torrance, California, and they had Torrance in the South Bay had 10,000 people out in the protest. And so we're going to try and get the word out. We're going to continue to work with Indivisible to get the words out. But we're going to try in every way that we can for you to know how you can join us. The bigger crowds we have, I think the more we can get the word to the courts and help them to make the decisions that we want. Okay? Thank you. Over here.
Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor. I have a homeless shelter. And what I want to say, I'm a true believer of what's going on because of this president, I cannot get a grant. He has cut the budget and there's no more money in the neighborhoods to help our homeless, and we need help. So I'm glad you have this. We need to stand in back of each other so we can help each other. It takes a village to rise up, and we can't do it if they're not funding us. And he has taken the money away, and I'm a true believer because it's happening to me.
All right, well, I want you to add to it. He is defunding all of the nonprofits.
Yes, he is.
He said he's taking away that money. And while we're fighting for the unhoused, and we're fighting to try to get people off the streets, he is doing everything that he can in Hood and hire somebody who happens to be Turner, who is a minister, who is going to carry out his wishes. So join us in this fight. We've got to stay on the street. And for all of you who are on the internet, I'm very, very pleased and proud that you can, go on all of these various internet posts and post things, but let's not rely on the internet. This is an old civil rights fight. We got to be on the street, and we've got to work and do exactly what this gentleman is saying. Thank you. Next.
Yes, Congresswoman, it's good to see you. I'm going to come from a different perspective.
Yes.
I disagree with everything
yes.
that has been said. In
yes.
fact, the Constitution does not really sanction or in the enumerated powers of the Constitution, none of these programs are social programs. However, there is one program that I think it does, and I wanted to ask your opinion on it. Of course, I could probably guess, but I want to ask for publicly. In Article 2, Section 3, it talks about the President shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all officers of the United States. And he did that with the Illegal Aliens Act, and which the Supreme Court supported, thank God. And the Supreme Court did support that decision. So now he can send people back who are criminals, and I'm not talking about just average people. So now, what do you? And see, just by the reaction shows the ignorance.
Excuse me. The audience just took care of you. Next.
Working for government, who worked as a public relations and community advocate, that it's very important, I believe, that not only is the work that you're doing behind the scenes important, but where we seem to be losing is the war of rhetoric. And so for those of you who are representing unions, what I would say to unify and make sure that all of America sees you is get t-shirts that say, "Make America Great Again, deport Elon." Okay? He happens to be a foreigner in this country, and he is not supporting this country. And when you talk about is a Air Force sergeant who was in the Air Force for 24 years. He is a disabled veteran. And when you say that you're cutting $1 billion from the VA, that is tantamount to being un-American, unpatriotic. We need to hear this. The things that you're doing are great, but the American people need to hear it put down to where they see these services are affecting them. That's where we are losing in the war rhetoric, because you're talking about big things like democracy is losing. They want to hear, okay, you're not going to get your kit. You're not going to be able to go to the VA and get your operation. You're not going to be able to get your Social Security. That's where you need to work on getting the message out to try and get these messages to people. Don't wait for the midterms. Talk now. If you're going to go on the radio, go to the newspaper, do whatever you can to get that message to the American people now, because we want to hear strong leadership like horrid book. You don't know, everybody applauded that. I had relatives that were in Alabama that unfortunately voted the other way because they said they thought the Democrats were weak. Let's show them the Democrats are strong and start getting that message out.
Thank you. Now, let me ask the audience, were we getting that message out today? Yeah. Did you hear what we were saying? Yeah. We're going to continue to do that. We're on that. We're on that message already. All right, thank you. Next.
Yeah, Congresswoman, my name is Sergeant Richard Cooks. We've met before many times. The core concern I have is with Trump. One, my background is military intelligence. I've got a lot of stuff to tell you one-on-one, because what's going on, his connection with Russia is not quite proper with any president. So the thing is, I know a lot of stuff in my military intelligence. I have to tell you that offline, because it's going to be cumbersome. But the thing is, he's not doing things right. He's also deporting people that's not proper. They're not illegal. A lot of the stuff is not. It's just because he is a racist.
You got it.
He's a racist.
He's a racist.
That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. Let me just say this about this deportation, and I hope you're watching what is going on with this. Abigail, what is his name? Abrego. I want you to watch this discussion and this fight, because here's what you're going to find out. You're going to find out that this president is capable of deporting American citizens, picking you up and sending you to a foreign country prison. And don't think it's just about somebody else. This is about what he can get away with. And so, this is a big fight that we have, even with these visas, for these students who wake up in the morning and figure out that they've already lost their visa and they got to get out of here. He knows what he's doing, and he's saying to other countries where the prisons are, particularly the one that's in the news right now, that you don't have to return. You don't have to come. You don't have to give them back. And so I want you to know he is capable of doing this deportation in huge numbers, but we got to fight really hard against this. We've got to fight against ICE, who can knock on your door and make you believe that they can get in. You don't have to let them in. I don't care what color you are. All right, go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the Postal Service who sent those mailers, which told me to come here today. I really appreciate what you're saying, and I want to better understand what you all are doing to stop the abduction of people on the streets and detention without due process. What are y'all doing in Congress about that? I understand there's limitations right now. I understand there's limitations because we're in the minority, but I want to know what Congress can do, and what can y'all do to make sure that the elections that come up actually are legitimate, because we have an administration that is respecting each branch of government. So what can Congress do to make sure that the administration is following those judges' orders when they say bring them back? What can we do about that?
One of the things that we're doing now with legislation and trying to do investigations is be ready with our information so that we can document what they're doing as we get them out of office. As long as they're in office, they're not going to agree. All we need in the House is 3 votes, 3 Republicans who have enough guts to stand up with us on some of the stuff that we need to do and get it done. But they're not going to vote against the president. He is intimidating them. Many of them are frightened of him. He treats some of them bad, but they still follow him. So everything that we're doing is getting ready to take back power and to exercise power when we get it. Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Nikki Parker Morgan, and I just wanted to thank you, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, because you are a fighter, a warrior, and we love you, and we have your back completely. And to all the panelists, you were so informative and gave us so much reassurance that there's someone behind the scenes fighting for us. So thank you so much. So my question is, if Trump, I refuse to call him president because he's not, but Trump continues this destruction and he gets to the point where he's shipping people off to Guantanamo Bay or wherever, and if he continues this destruction in this path, can the U.S. Marshals arrest him?
No. Let me just say this. The president has extraordinary powers, and even in the Constitution of the United States, there is no list of things that he cannot do. However, there is a way to get rid of a president other than through the votes, but it takes his cabinet coming together. The cabinet comes together and they decide that he's a danger to the country, that he has to be removed, maybe even have to be jailed. But he picked these psychopaths who will do anything that they're told. And we don't know that with this cabinet that he has, that they would ever get together, even in the face of extreme danger. But we cannot give up on anything. We have to keep pointing out how unprepared these cabinet members are to accede and to work out the responsibilities that they have. Many of them don't know anything. And he doesn't care if they don't know anything. All he cares is that they do what they're told. But, you know, maybe we can have some breakthroughs here and there as we start to talk about the responsibility of the cabinet to ensure that a crazy president does not remain the president of the United States. Other than the vote, to get him out in 4 years, that's it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, on this side?
Good afternoon to everyone who's here and also to Congresswoman Maxine Waters. I've grown up with you. I admire you greatly. I reclaimed my time. That moment for me was magical. My name is Jacqueline. I'm a resident here in Inglewood. I am a junior professor at UC Santa Barbara. And I am aware of most of what the panelists spoke of today, and it's truly frightening. And to say that I would like to be hopeful, but there's a part of me that thinks, you know, people keep saying we're on the road to fascism, but I think we're there. And I think my main question, I have several concerns, one of them being the student loan garnishments that they're planning on doing for people like myself, who's owed more than $200,000 in debt and only get paid $3,800 a month. You know, what is that going to do to us? But my main question that I wanted to take this time to ask you today is, what is being done to bring in ICE? Why are ICE agents allowed to use unmarked vehicles and not identify themselves? Why isn't the agency and agents being held accountable? This is allowing them to skirt accountability and oversight. ICE agents, police, any government employee or contractor should be required to identify themselves and provide their badge number. And the last I heard was that they no longer need a warrant to come into people's homes. So what are the Democrats? What is Congress doing? I understand that the Republicans are putting up a wall, but besides telling the constituents to go out and protest while we have to work, while we have to buy groceries, while we have to pay student loans back, how do we have the support from our Congress, from our representatives, to make sure that we don't have our rights trampled on?
Okay, I don't want people to miss the point. I don't want you to miss the point. And I want to reiterate how important the vote is. When you vote the representatives and the President of the United States to carry out the laws of the democracy. When you say, what are the Democrats doing, you keep missing the point that we're not in the majority because we didn't get the vote. If we get the vote, we can run the country. We gotta teach people who are their best friends and who are their enemies. I'm shocked. I am shocked when I hear there were black males that voted for Trump. I am shocked when I hear all of the Latinos that voted for Trump. I am shocked because they don't know who the enemy is. And they're voting for the very person who will undermine their ability to have a decent quality of life. And so, the message here is vote. And don't tell me you don't know the difference. Listen to all of the information. Read everything that you can read. There is no excuse for us saying, I didn't know. Now I'm having people who say, oh, I've got buyer's remorse. I voted for him. That's a terrible lesson to learn. That's a terrible lesson to learn. It all lies in the vote. If the Democrats had the vote, you wouldn't have this problem. You wouldn't have this fascism. You wouldn't have this problem at all. Without it, we're all in trouble. Get that understanding today. Next.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Janice Stewart. I have a question about this El Salvadorian president. When did Congress appropriate or either vote for money to pay him millions of dollars? Did you hear me?
Let me go back and tell you about the vote. The Republicans are in charge of the vote. They have the majority in the House and the Senate, and we are fighting them. We are fighting them on every issue. Like I said in the House, if we could get 3 Republican votes on some of these issues, we'd be able to overcome something. But as long as they're in charge, as long as we don't outvote them, as long as we don't get to the polls, as long as we have communities who only vote, 9 and 10 and 15%, and their people are voting, and some of the people that are voting for them are domestic terrorists. You're talking about the Proud Boys. You're talking about the KKK. You're talking about the others who fall in those categories. The ones who invaded the capital of the United States wanted to kill us. These are the people that are supporting him, and they're voting in huge numbers. They're turning out to vote. We have got to use what the Constitution guarantees us, the right to vote. We have fought the civil rights to ensure that we're able to vote. We used to have to pay poll taxes. We used to deny the right to vote. Civil rights people died for the right to vote and got us in a position where we can vote. All I can say is we got to vote, vote, vote. Next.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beverly Todd. I'm an actress. And I want everybody to know, hi Maxine, everybody to know that not only are the press being shut down, but they're shutting down trying to shut down all the media, all the television news. Trump is, and DACA, our friend, is in a fight to get Paramount Studios so that she can be control of the media instead of negative, false information. I have a question. I'm very interested in volunteering. I'm very interested in Social Security and in education. And I'd like to volunteer to help do something. Please will give you my information. And my question, Maxine, is do you think you would be a great leader of this for the black people? You really would. But we need a leader, somebody like Martin Luther King, somebody that could be strong. And I wanted to ask you, I wanted to have a meeting with you. I've got several names of people that might be good. We need a leader. We need somebody to pull us all together and disseminate news for us. So that's my question. How can we do that?
Well, let me just tell you, I do believe that there are a lot of talented people who are going to have to come forward because they know that they are talented and they know that they're willing to do the work, but they never really had to do it before, they thought. And so I don't have a particular name for you, but I'm looking at a number of people. For example, I like Hakeem Jeffries, who is the head of our Democratic Congress, who is focused on making sure that he can get what he gets out of the Congress. But I'm saying to him, Hakeem, there's a vacuum in leadership. And even though your job is to become the Speaker of the House, and we're fighting for that, we need you even broader, working with the governors and the mayors and looking at the presidency and all of that. So we'll talk a lot more about some of those names that I think will emerge. But thank you. As an actress and as a person in entertainment, you've always been involved in the community. You've always been organizing and working on the justice and civil rights issues. Give Beverly Flood a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next over here.
Yes, my name is Brenda Bell. I live here in Inglewood, and my concern is that they're trying to eliminate my history. The Black Museum in Washington, I've heard that they want to dismantle it. And then the thing that I'm really concerned about, I come from a blended family. I have an international family, white, international, you name it, Hispanic, Argentina. So our families are taking turns in taking our kids to school, so we, or our family members, will not get caught up in ICE. And my thing of it, basically I just want to say, because Maxine, you have always been on the front line. Whenever I call you, you step up to the plate. My concern is that they take in my White House, which is we are the people. That's our house. And we have to get the word out to everyone that we have to take it back, because it's not Putin, it's not Xi, but that's what he's turning it into. You can see all the gold, all the disrespect, and we're going to have to step up and put our arms together and link together and walk. I'm from the George Wallace era. You got to get out and fight. Stop all this talking, but we're going to have to get out and fight.
Well, thank you, and thank you. Take that message to church, take it everywhere. Now, if you really want to understand, the deeper we go into this, the president wants to get rid of all of black statues. He wants to get rid of the big African museum in Washington, D.C. He wants to get rid of anything that he now calls diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's given it his own definition, and he is lying, he is being racist. It is a terrible thing that he's doing, but he's trying to erase our history and erase our progress. He even wants to do away with Juneteenth. Now, you know that's bad. We just got it a couple of years ago. All right, okay, over here.
Good afternoon, thank you. And you said ask anything, but my question doesn't have anything to do with But anyway, it has to do with the property taxes in the city. We got SoFi Stadium, we got the farm, now we got the Intuit Dome, all generating tax dollars. But it seems like with all these taxes being generated, the residents aren't being benefited in any kind of way. We still have a lot of traffic. If there's something going on in one of the venues, we can't get to the grocery stores. Sometimes when we're coming home from work, we probably can't even get home. So, when I pay my property tax, and we look at all the things that's listed, they're voter-approved initiatives. I have to pay for those who work in education, pay for their retirement. And just thinking back to when I do vote, and I'm trying to figure out what this initiative is. It's very confusing. Am I supposed to vote yes, no, or what? Because I don't want to vote any more property taxes because we already be taxed to the hill. So,
well, let me just kind of cut you off right here. You know, I don't run the city of Inglewood.
Right.
You have a mayor and you have a city council. And I'm always shocked to know that some of the issues that one or two people deal with, but most don't, you only have council meetings during the daytime. The people who work would like to have council meetings at least one night out of the month. But guess what? Nobody shows up at the city council to fight for. The people in Inglewood got to fight for what it is they want. That's why you have a mayor and a city council. Now let me just tell you this. I interfered one time. I interfered on the connector. The connector that you guys allowed to be supported was 1.6 miles, 3 stops, $2 billion. Coming from everything from South Bay Council, the state of California, the federal government. I took out the federal government part. $2 billion when you need housing, affordable housing, you need better transportation, and even though this is going to be the same of the World Cup, and it's going to be the same of the World Series, and sports is very important, the people of Inglewood have got to decide what's more important for them. Okay, thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman Maxine.
Speak up.
And your distinguished panel. I appreciate everyone coming out today and explaining to us what all your services entail and what you are doing to benefit us as a people. My question, though, is about the legalities of what's going on. There's so many lawsuits that are in our federal courts right now, and then they're going to the appeals courts. My question is, if these lawsuits are won by us, the people, how long will it take for them to be re-implemented, if and when at all? Do we have to wait until midterms 2 years from now to see these lawsuits that are, being put upon us? Once we've won them, do we have to wait 2 years to have them enacted and be able to pick up where we left off from, such as the jobs being cut, home, HUD being cut, Social Security, all this? Do we have to wait 2 years for these lawsuits once we've won them?
That's a good question, and I wish I could answer specifically. The court, has its own rules and it has its own time frame, and I don't know, but we wish, as you do, that these get past the temporary decision to the permanent decision and execute them as quickly as possible. You're right, the courts can sometimes take a long time on issues, but because this whole democracy is at stake, I do believe that we have some really credible judges, not all, but some real credible ones who will try to move the agenda, and I'll try and keep up with the information, stay in touch with us so that we can see and understand and share with you what we know about the timelessness or the lack of timelessness of the courts.
Can I just add one more thing? Do we have to
Get the microphone.
Do we have to wait for every last one of them to get to the Supreme Court before they are settled?
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have to wait for every last one of them to get to the Supreme Court before we
No, it does not work like that. First of all, most of these cases start in the lower courts or the courts of appeals. And so some of them won't even get to the Supreme Court. Some will. But no, you don't wait that all of them get resolved at any one time. As the courts work, they will be working on case after case after case. Some will get resolved sooner, some later, some never. I mean, we don't know exactly, but no, you don't have to wait. Thank you. Thank you.
to say that I appreciate you coming. I've been voting for you since last century. And almost all of these departments I have had dealings with them. My husband was stationed at Thule Air Force Base, which is that base in Greenland, which is now called some other base, it's another name. Social Security, I get. My kids have had to go, I raised my kids in this area, my grandkids in this area. My grandkids are now starting to UC Davis, and so almost everything here has had something to do with me, up to and including my mom going into a nursing home, Medi-Cal. But, and so I have seconded almost everything except one thing that I heard today. But it's already been addressed, but my issue, one of my issues was about the, how much access we get to the media. And when we get there, when I hear the Sunday morning programs, and I hear the same people being interviewed, I never hear them, I'm old school, calling a spade. So instead of calling the Trump administration, why aren't they calling it the regime? Because we're so deep into fascism, headed toward Nazism, until these people, they don't get to be called administration. They need to be called a regime. So,
I think you have a good question about what is the media doing and how can they help us to educate and get the word out. And that is a very legitimate question. One of the things that we're trying to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion is to say to the media, you've got to hire more people who look like America. You've got to make sure that we have people who are willing to take our issues to the editorial boards and talk about what has to be done. And so I would like to see the media do even more. Some particular journalists seem to do more. Some are more threatened, I think, but we should keep calling. We should keep writing. We should keep making sure we tell our stories to the press. The right-wing conservatives do a great job on Fox News and some of these places of getting their issues heard. They call, they talk, and they are in line with the people who've chosen to run the various programs. We've got to do more of that and let those who appear to be at least fair. I am an MSNBC person. This is the one that I pay attention to, and I call them, I talk to them, and they appear to do a better job. So let's all do that. Let's call them, let's bug them, let's worm to that, okay? Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elisa Underwood. I'm a healthcare worker, and I'm also a proud member of SEIU UHW. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, I thank you for your vocal support of our healthcare workers and the fight for Medicaid and Social Security. It's been deeply concerning for us because hospitals rely heavily on Medicaid funding for services. We know it will mean cuts to jobs, and we also know that so many of our patients will suffer as they may delay health care if they don't have coverage, which will essentially hit ERs. That is the most expensive way to go about getting health care, is going through the ER, and that would make a big hit. As a union, we have been targeting Republican Congress members to pressure them not to vote for these cuts. So my question is, what is your commitment to doing, for these, what is your commitment to doing, and what can everyday community members do to stop cuts to vital services like Medicaid and Social Security.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to ask our Medicaid person to reiterate how big this cut is and how many people will be hurt.
Yeah, so, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. You know, UC Berkeley just released a report, and they're estimating that the cuts are going to result in up to 217,000 jobs lost. They're also estimating that for every dollar that we spend on Medicaid that goes away, the economy loses $1.85. So it's enormous what's being considered. We talked a lot about the impacts on the people that the program serves. Thank you for raising your voice on the healthcare, your voice as a healthcare worker. I will share a win that we had very recently. Because people like you have mobilized and made your voices heard, a week or so ago, maybe a little over a week ago, 12 Republican members of Congress went on the record for the first time and told Republican leadership that they were opposed to Medicaid cuts. I think that deserves a round of applause because a lot of the folks in these rooms, including Congresswomen, had a lot to do with that. Now, the fight's not over. The fight's going to heat up over the summer. And the cuts are still real. And they're still looking to figure out how to fund the tax cuts, right? And Medicaid has a target on its back. So I just really want to applaud you for standing up and doing your part, because it does make a difference, either directly through coalitions, etc. It makes a significant difference.
Okay, let me just say thank you, SEIU. SEIU, organized labor, does a fantastic job on all of the issues of concern to working people, and so I'm appreciative that you're here today. The Medicaid issue is extraordinarily important, and our leader on the Democratic side in the House has made this a priority issue on Medicaid because so many people are dependent on it. $850 billion will be cut out of Medicaid if we don't get the votes that we need in this budget that's coming up. So we're fighting. And what we do is everything that I talked to you about today, and that is file amicus briefs on lawsuits, rally, protests, hold town hall meetings, try to encourage people to vote and understand how important the vote is. The vote is everything. And so we're doing everything that we can as Democrats, trying to even talk to the Republicans and trying to convince some of them on some of the votes. We're doing everything that we possibly can. Who's next?
We have 5 more questions and that's it.
Hello everyone, my name is Richard France. I am an homeowner in Inglewood for the past 24 years. So Congresswoman Waters, I just want to say thank you so much for your steadfast leadership, your unwavering support for the 43rd District. I am a founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Labor of Love Foundation. Labor of Love specializes in providing magical home renovation services to vulnerable communities. So we are dedicated to being on the front lines of this housing crisis. There's 3 pillars that Labor of Love is striving to achieve. We're trying to improve the quality of lives of our constituents. We're trying to narrow this wealth gap, particularly the wealth gap in our communities, the people of color. We're trying to unlock the wealth potential of their properties through magical renovations. And then thirdly, we're hoping to provide families with hope and inspiration for them to pursue their dreams. So my question to you, Congresswoman Waters, is how can Labor of Love, we will be humbly grateful to be able to introduce our nonprofit to your office to ultimately see how we can do our little part in the bigger problem of the housing crisis here in LA. So we would love to be able to introduce our nonprofit to your office, and we just want to see how we can do that.
Well, we'd love to have you in our database because it's important for us to know all of the nonprofits, all of the services that people would like to provide. What we're focused on now is if you're getting any federal money at all. We're focused on nonprofits not being arbitrarily cut off and eliminated in the services, in the monies that you're using to provide the services. I'd like you to know that our representative here today, who is talking about the counseling that they do in terms of, but let me just tell you something else. Inglewood, you're in Inglewood, right? And the discussions are going to have to go on in your city that are not going on. And I don't know why they don't go on. First of all, you are developing so-called affordable housing that turns out to be market rate housing. That more market rate housing is being proposed than affordable housing. I don't know why that is, and I don't know why the citizens of Inglewood don't ask about that. Also, the connector that I interfered with, the only time I've interfered, where you were going to spend $2 billion on a 1.6 mile transportation to the games. Why does that take precedent over housing? Why does that take precedent over the fact that because of what is going on in Inglewood, some people refer to it as gentrification, and that your property taxes are rising, and people on fixed income are now having to try and pay more rent. These are some local issues that people have got to decide in this city whether or not they're going to deal with it. Enough said.
I think it's almost afternoon now, but I want to say I'm Rosemary Lackow. I provide staff support for the South Bay Cities Council of Government, but I'm here today as a private person, one of the proud constituents of yours, Congresswoman Waters, and I thank you for coming to us, coming to your constituents. I feel that connection is so important. I just want to say, I almost agree with almost every speaker, with maybe one exception, and so I don't want to go too much into any of that. I'm the last speaker on this side, so I'll try to hurry up. A couple things. Oh, I'm sorry. We kept changing. Okay, the midterm elections, on the issue of voting. I believe that the midterms are sort of like a check on what's going on at the presidential level. A little bit. It gives us a chance to vote in between the 4 years, and I think it's so important. A lot of people think, oh, it's a presidential election, and every 4 years is almost important. But no, these midterm elections are extremely important. Number two, I want to say something about the constitutional problems that are going on right now. We are, in the middle or at a constitutional crisis right now. They say that a constitutional crisis exists when a branch of government is not following what the other branch, i.e. what the Justice Department or what the Supreme Court is saying. When a direct order is given to the president and he doesn't follow it, then there's where we're at. That's a true constitutional crisis. In the issue of the mass deportations, in that regard with the Constitution, I'm hearing a discourse coming up in the public about rights and due process. And we have different levels of rights. There's a hierarchy, I don't know if that's the right word. There's human rights, there's civil rights, etc. And they're saying, well, if you are not a legal, I don't know who they is, but one side, I guess the administration saying, if you are not a legal citizen of this country, then you don't have the right for due process. That is constitutional, a very important constitutional thing, established. But I'm of the mind that you also have human rights, and that are human rights not covered under the Constitution? This is a rhetorical question. Yes, I just asked it. Is do we have rights that are human rights covered under the Constitution? I don't know if there's any constitutional, lawyer here that can answer that, but I don't know how that ends.
Well, the one thing that you can be assured of, two things that are constitutional is, number one, you have a right to request, to attempt and fill out all the forms and answer all the questions and do everything you can do under the Constitution to try and get into the country. And the country makes a decision about whether or not you should be allowed into the country. And a lot of that, without all of the specificity, has to do with why are you trying to leave? Is your life in danger, or your family in danger, or is there a coup d'etat going on in your country where people have been detained, killed, what have you? So there's a constant, in the Constitution, you have a right to apply to get into the country. If you come into the country and you have come without going through that process, then the process for you to be managed out of the country is not, as I understand it, necessarily constitutional. It's by law that have been developed to say what happens to you in the deportation process and what you are able to do based on the laws that are developed. I don't think. And the other thing that's constitutional is birthright. He's trying to undo birthright. If you were born in this country, I don't care where you came from, you're an American citizen, and he's trying to undo that. If you were born in this country, you have birthright, and I believe that that will be protected by the Constitution. That's as much as I know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon, Ms. Waters. It's nice seeing you. Since Nickerson Gardens, you encouraged me to join the Army Reserves at Project Bill. I can relate to everyone on the panel. I'm a former letter carrier in the LC. I did that 4.5 years ago. Social Security, I'm receiving now. Keep up the good work.
Yes.
Social Security, I'm on that right now. That's
okay.
Social Security. Medical, housing. I'm a former U.S. vet. Army Reserve, though. But when it comes to housing and medical, I come short of benefits or anything, They always state that I don't have enough months of active duty, but it's only pertaining to housing or medical, And I was wondering, I asked everybody, I can't get no answer. And right now, I'm housed at Salvation Army Bell Shelter. It's okay, I minored in health education in college, but housing, I'm having a big problem getting.
Okay, and you can contact my office. We work with U.S. Vets right here in Inglewood, one of the best programs in the country. So contact my office. We have several people here. In the back of the room, the line is Hamilton Cloud, and we will help you in every way that we can. We have something called vouchers. We don't have anybody here particularly on that issue, but we can work with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
U.S. Vets.
Right. Long Beach get denied Indian.
I don't know what you're saying.
I said I applied at Long Beach for housing, and they always throw up, you don't have enough months of active duty. But everything else, they roll out the royal carpet for me pertaining to veterans.
We're going to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about you get this information? Get this information. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Congresswoman Auntie Marvelous Maxine Waters. This is a dream come true for me to attend a town hall. I've heard so much about you. I vote for you. I'm an election poll worker. So it's always a wonderful experience to have that. Being in your presence, and thank everybody, and Mr. Bowser for the nostalgia. Thank you all for what you do, and most importantly, I pray for you specifically and all of you that the Lord will give you strength to continue to do what you do. What I learned more than anything during my co-working experience, I heard you fight for every race, not just Black or Hispanic, but every race. I heard it from every race. So thank you very much.
So welcome. Thank you. And I want you to know we need more poll workers. We need you to sign up, go through the little training. We need poll workers. So thank you for working on the poll. We need more people doing that. Next.
Hi, this is Chris Hudson. I'm from a 40-year veterinarian, not a veteran, a veterinarian, but now I'm retired and I'm just learning. And I just have this question on how we get the message out and how we're heard. And on March 23rd, you know, that Trump's team accidentally or maliciously eliminated Tuskegee Airmen, WASPs, and Navajo code talkers because of DEI. And the uproar was so great that they put everything back, hopefully. But what I want to know is the basics of communication of this political awareness is how was that outcry transmitted? Was it by, because there were no picket lines, there were no protests, no town halls, it was snap. That was a huge burst of outcry, uproar. Everyone, Republicans were upset, military was upset. So is there some way that we don't have to wait for the vote? I was so happy that we were heard, that somehow that outcry was so guttural, so wrenching, that they changed it and they fixed it right away. So how do you make that guttural outcry, like 300, have everybody on democrat.gov send us an email saying, look, this just happened, hit your bomb and bomb 300 House representatives and senators and tell them you are absolutely gobsmacked, amazed that they made such a stupid mistake, or hopefully it wasn't malicious, or hopefully it was all accidental. But that for all of you people up there, you are facing the same stupidity and gobsmackedness, like, are you kidding me? And you want to outcry and then pass it to your Republican family and say, can you, with social media, and bomb them and say, hey, bro, Paul and Mark, this is what they do, what do you think? And then you've got the Republicans that they apparently heard. The only thing good out of all that was, oh, they listened to something, not all these important issues, but they listened to trying to change history.
Well, let me just say that, yeah, you just heard from our representative here talking about Medicaid, and because so many people depend on it, it looks as if you got some Republicans who are folding, and that right now, as we go into the budget, we may be able to stop the cuts because we have so many people who depend on it, who are speaking up, who are rallying. When I was at the rally, I think in the Hawthorne area, it seemed as if Medicaid was a big issue that the people were talking about. And so we may be able to get some Republicans every now and then. I heard you mention Medicaid, but I heard you mention something about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what were you trying to ask about that? They took a microphone.
How to protest effectively and efficiently and virally in today's organizational structure with internet, so that you have more effect, so that you don't have to rely on picketing or protests or getting your picture taken and possibly...
Okay, let me just say this, that, and I try to talk about the importance of protesting and organizing. How that not only helps to educate others who see you, hear you, but the courts. I am really trying in the best way that I can, and many of the members, to make sure that the courts know. Now, don't assume that every judge knows every issue. Assume that that most of them may, but they need to hear from the public. And the way that they hear from the public, because you can't call each one of them up and talk to them, is when we show up. Like the work that Indivisible is doing, that's helping us to organize all these protests. The work that the members are doing by holding town halls, the work that we do by showing up in front of these agencies, having press conferences, all of that is about trying to stop the cuts, stop the firing, stop the anti-democratic actions that are taking place, stop the president from being so comfortable with being aligned to Russia and all of that. And so we have to keep it up. The fight, as I say it and define it, is in the streets. That's it. Next. And then we're going to close it down. We've got another one to do. Is that it? Did we get everybody that was in line? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, before you leave,